we're not born with the desire to thrive and succeed and get pats on the back and titles and roles. It comes to us. And that's kind of what I call the noise. The noise we have these days it's from our society. It's from the shoulds. I should be this, I should be that. It's from the roles and responsibilities. It's from the beliefs that we latch onto as we go. And that's the noise. And that's what my vision quest is, what my work is all about. It's about turning down the noise so that you can hear your truth again.
Welcome to Inside the Circle, a series of conversations from Sangha. We sit down with our members and together we explore the practice of living fully in the modern world while staying connected to something deeper within. Through community, shared inquiry, and inner work, Sangha is an exploration into what becomes possible when we walk that path together in fellowship. The practice of living in the world but not being fully of it. To learn more about Sangha and our growing network of circles around the world, visit www.sangha.one. And welcome to this conversation with Ret Taylor. Ret spent more than 20 years building companies around the world before stepping into the work he's been most drawn to today. He guides founders, executives, and high performers through vision quests and wilderness-based rites of passage, experiences designed to strip away the noise of modern life and create space for deeper clarity, truth, and alignment. His work centers on thresholds, the moments when an old identity, a way of living, or definition of success no longer fits, but the next chapter has yet fully emerged. Through solitude, challenge, nature, ceremony, and honest reflection, he helps people reconnect with who they actually are and move forward with greater courage, presence, and purpose. Welcome, Ret, and it's very fitting that you're out in nature right now on this rainy day in Boulder, Colorado.
I've been waiting and praying for this rainy day. Yeah, the earth is happy today. So am I.
We have this naturescape that is very alive behind you. So, and as I was kind of sitting with the theme of this mini series of conversations that we're having at Sangha, the stepping off point that I thought would be most fun for us to dive into is really the exploration of Sangha itself, which is what does it mean to be in like-minded community for this time? There's like a contemporary kind of like exploration that we're all in together. And so I wanted to start there and see how that inquiry is for you. Really what drew you to Sangha and what has come to mean to you in this chapter of your life.
Yeah. Well, honestly, when Jack Swift tells me he's up to something good, I pay attention. So, and then I met you at Highland City Club, and I said, "Yeah, okay, I'm in." And that's all it took. But on a deeper level, yeah, community, Sangha. It feels like the other side of the pendulum right now in the world that we're living in. And it just feels like it's becoming more and more important as we swing further to the other side. And yeah, it's really been my focus for the past decade or so to come back into community and to lean deeper into it. And it's been a really important part of my journey and my joy and my life these days. And yeah, also I feel very rooted here in Boulder. We've been here now about 12 years and feels, that's the longest I've ever lived anywhere. And having the community around here, just right behind me is where I do the fire circle, and I bring 15 to 20 men every month, and we just share around the fire and these are the things that bring me most alive.
I love that. Yeah, this idea of rootedness, right? I think both of us in our journeys had periods of expansion, exploration, potentially untetheredness. I'll use that word at least for my for me. And there's such a potency to rooting, right? And you've got trees behind you right now. Like, what great teachers in that.
Yeah, there is. It's there's a real beauty to it, and there's a beauty to the phase of life where you're unrooted, and I thoroughly enjoyed that too. And it made me appreciate the rootedness I have now. And I'm an adventurer and a traveler, and I leave home often, and it's really, really beautiful to come back to it. Um, yeah, so it's all here for us, right?
I'm curious about your work and how that ties to your journey. So your work is a lot about rites of passage, particularly in nature. And I know your story, but I'm sure others would love to hear it too. And so this question is really, was there a specific moment where you realized that, the entrepreneurial path that you had been on, like something had to shift, or there was like a...
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. And I don't know if you know this story, Ian, but yeah, it was on Denali 2 years ago. I was wearing the same jacket, and we had spent the first 11 days climbing Denali, which is a mountain up in Alaska, and it's typically about a 2.5 to 3 week expedition, and the first 11 days of it were beautiful. The weather was amazing. And we got up to high camp, which is at about 18,000 feet, with only about 2,000 feet to go. But these two massive Arctic storms were heading our way. And so we had to make a decision that night. Are we going to stay and, bear down and hunker down through these two storms? We could be in our tents for the next 5 to 12 days at 18,000 feet and negative 40 degrees with 100-mile-per-hour winds, or do we turn around and head down and maybe try again another time? And my first instinct was very much in the camp of let's stay and grind this out. That's what I do. I do hard things. I've gotten very good at that ever since I was 10 years old, when I made a vow to bring myself out of scarcity and into more safety and abundance. I made a vow to do hard things. It looked like doing hard things was the path to that. And that became my identity. It was fully, effort equals success. That was my MO, my strategy, my everything. And I realized that night, laying in my tent with that decision to make, the mountain doesn't care about my effort. There is no amount of effort that could get me to the summit in those conditions. And I'd also already had a beautiful climb. I was already higher up than I'd ever been, and had 11 amazing days with 4 fantastic friends. And it felt like, why stay? Why go through the effort? And I laid in my tent, and I had this vision of myself rowing this little rowboat by myself upstream. And I was pointing forward. I was rowing forward, and I was pointing at the rocks and the rapids. And I'd been doing that since I had made that vow as a 10-year-old. And I had just read the Surrender Experiment, and I let go of the oars that night, and I realized that my hands were clenched in fists, and it took me minutes to open my hands, to unclench my fists, and it felt like this very deep release. And as soon as I opened them to a point, the oars slipped away from my grasp, and I felt myself come to a stop in the river. And then I felt myself immediately begin to flow backward with the current. And that really felt like that was the moment for me where I released the oars and I surrendered to what I always wanted to do and allowed the current to carry me. And it carried me down the mountain the next day, and it carried me back to the business I had founded and, you know, bled over for 7 years. And it carried me to my business partner to tell him that I was ready to sell, and turned out he was as well. And it carried me to do the things that you just described in my bio there, which is to help guide people through those thresholds. And yeah, that was very much a vision for me. That was very much like a vision quest. It wasn't a traditional one, but it had all of the elements of it: the severance, the threshold, the incorporation, literally coming down the mountain, bringing back the wheat from the threshold. And yeah, that was the moment, man.
Yeah, the rite of passage and the vision that came, right? And you weren't calling it in that moment, but it found you.
It found me. And that's what happens when you spend time in nature, in simplicity, in solitude, in silence. It's almost inevitable. I call it an ancient technology because it feels very much like a technology where you do this and it happens. And yeah, climbing a mountain is very simple. It's one foot in front of the other, day in, day out. And you're just surrounded by nature. And Denali is such a beautiful place. There's 4 colors: the white of the snow, the blue of the ice, the blue of the sky, and the black of the rock. And it was very, very simple, yet awesome.
Yeah, and it's like I relate to the striving, the achieving, the summiting, right? And the desire to summit. And like, I'm sure that was a big part of your motivations at base camp, right? Like, why do this crazy thing? Because we're going to summit. I don't know. I make that up.
Well, it honestly, it wasn't until we got on the mountain. I was just there for a good time with my friends, and they were focused on the summit. And then, yeah, you get that sort of, all right, well, here's the objective. Let's go do it. And I became focused on the summit, which is interesting. You know, we're not born with the desire to thrive and succeed and get pats on the back and titles and roles. It comes to us, and that's kind of what I call the noise. You know, the noise we have these days it's from our society. It's from the shoulds. I should be this. I should be that. It's from the roles and responsibilities. It's from the beliefs that we latch onto as we go, and that's the noise. And that's what my vision quest is, what my work is all about. It's about turning down the noise so that you can hear your truth again.
Amazing. Yeah, and the way you think of these rites of passage, because obviously now you guide folks to it. Like, what are the essential elements? You touched on it, I think, in a moment ago, but
Yeah, well, you know, vision quests and rites of passage and initiations these are cross-cultural throughout history around the world. And generally, they all carried the same arc, which was severance, severing yourself not only from your people or your home to go into nature, to be alone, but severing yourself from those limiting beliefs or just beliefs in general, from the roles, from the titles, and from the shoulds, and just being. So it's almost like just peeling away the onion so that you can then enter the threshold. And, you know, a threshold is very much like a portal. And we think of thresholds as having doors. That's the etymology of the word, is it's a doorway. And it's the place where you would bring the wheat to then separate the wheat from the chaff. And the chaff would be left behind. It was no longer needed. It was needed, though, to grow the wheat. You needed the roots, the stalk, the stem, all of it. But then at a certain point, you can discard that, leave it behind. And then you take the wheat from the threshold and you carry it back to your people. And that's where the nutrition is. And so in order to pass through doorways, we have to be light enough to do so. We can't carry a ton of baggage. And you think of the birth portal, you have to be a naked little baby. Otherwise, you won't fit. And so we need to shed these things. And that's the first phase of just about every vision quest or rite of passage. The next phase is the threshold. It's that time in that liminal space between the old and what will become the new. And that's what most people think of as a vision quest. It's a few days, 3-4 days on the land, fasting typically, and the Lakota call it crying for a vision, or the Hamblachia. And it's where you open yourself up to your truth, to your vision. And that comes when you've turned down the noise. And then the third phase is always the incorporation, and it's the bringing it back. But it's bringing it back to your people, your family, your community, your company these days, or your village in other days. And it was never a selfish thing. It was always about the people. And so you would come back and the people would want to hear your vision. They'd want to hear about your journey. And these days we don't have that. We don't have elders that we can come share our visions with who've been there themselves. And that's a big part of my mission. It's about creating a group of elders who we can share our visions with, and having that become more of a norm in our society. So, yeah. And we need that, because without being witnessed in that, we can't fully incorporate our visions, our truth.
Yeah, it's bringing the gifts back. Like, I love the idea of like returning with the bounty, and it honestly brings me back to the beginning of this dialogue where we're talking about the rooting of the trees, and yet the beauty of the going out and traveling, and like this framework for um, sacred rites of passage, and these pretty clear steps that show up across lineages and traditions. Like we're so craving of peak experience these days, right? So naturally folks go to the mountaintop or the liminal state and give me, like, I'll be bare and give me my vision, but it's all to bring it back. It's all to share the fruits with that council of elders, or in some your Sangha circle. And like I totally hear you on how do we integrate these gifts back into the world. And you can spend a lifetime. Like I don't know, I mean, how often do folks typically go on vision quests? Because like you can,
I mean, I've been doing this since I was a kid. When I was 10, the place that I left was the Navajo reservation, and it created a lot of sadness in me. But I've been going in one form or another to the wilderness on my own since that time, and it's evolved. In college, it was very much this like tough guy thing where I would just bring a knife and a fish hook, and
like survival mode type thing.
yeah, it was definitely like, let's see how tough you are, and I would end up shivering most of the time. And these days, and there is that in a lot of societies, but these days I do it with a lot more intention and a lot more comfort, honestly. I don't want the rock poking me in my back to distract me from my vision. So I have a camp chair, and I have a very comfortable mat, and I have a tarp or a tent, and it's I'm very much also into challenging oneself, pushing oneself beyond their limit, so that you can see just how strong and capable you are. But this is not the time or place to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love, like I totally relate to this, younger, more intense kind of like uh pushing all the edges, like what I would describe as kind of the warrior. And then like this soft heart, or the receptivity, which ultimately nature, I mean, mother nature, it is like um when you're in deep communion, it's a feminine principle, right, that you commune with. And
We're doing a quest in 3 weeks, and I have an amazing group of of people coming on it. And we just last week, everyone shared their intentions. And one of the intentions was to return to the bosom of nature, of Mother Nature. And I know that person is going to have a really beautiful quest, because it's going to be in joy and ease and comfort and returning home to the original mother.
Yeah. And our primordial state, like this whole modern culture thing is pretty experimental on the human time scale, right?
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's our culture too, right? There are other cultures that are in deeper alignment still. And I'm spending time with them as well. And that's really beautiful and eye-opening.
We're coming close to our time together. It's really just like these little snippets where we can drop in deep together and share a little, to kind of honor the emergence of the way we do things in Sangha. I have a card deck here, and I'm gonna draw my final prompt to you from there. So give me a sec. I'll see what wants to emerge. What makes you feel peaceful?
Mm. Mm. Well, nature, connection, um, spaciousness. Spaciousness has become my favorite luxury. The spaciousness to be, yeah, spaciousness makes me feel peaceful.
And say a little more about what spaciousness looks like for you.
Yeah. Oh, it's enough time to do and be. It's enough geographic space to, spread my wings and go. Um, it's returning home to my beautiful family and feeling this sense of just being home, rooted. Yeah. And this really, I'm glad you asked, because this this love for spaciousness came up on the last quest, when my job is to, once I get everybody out into their sacred spot, it's to be there and hold space for them and pray for them, and make sure that they're safe, and to keep the fire lit. And there's so much spaciousness in that for me. And I'll be going back out in a couple of weeks, and I'll get to think more about what that is and why I'm drawn so deeply to that at this stage in my life.
Mm. I really appreciate going a little deeper to that, because it's something that I say often too. Like, oh, it's when it feels spacious, and like, I really want to, kind of sit with the state. It's a state, really. I guess there's external conditions that I sometimes put on it, like, oh, I don't want to have too many meetings back to back, or like, yeah, like being like the presence to come home to family, like all of those things that you said, which really resonate. And but it's, yeah, there's something about like the state of spaciousness that, like there's something vast to it. Like anything can be thrown in that vastness, and it still feels vast.
Yes, exactly. It's the Yeah, it's the first day of a long vacation. It's the time when you realize that you've, you know, done everything on your to-do list, and all there is left is to light a fire and sit there with the family. That brings me peace.
Mm. Wow, what a beautiful place to end. Thank you, Ret, for dropping in with us, and bringing some of the nature behind you forward for all of us and the work you do.
Thank you, Iain. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Inside the Circle from Sangha. If this dialogue resonated with you, we would love to hear from you. We invite you to learn more about Sangha, our upcoming circles and events at www.sangha.one.